I can only imagine what it had been like in this part of South Carolina in the early days after the lights came on. The records show that Santee Electric Cooperative was chartered at 5:00 p.m. on Thursday, December 14th of 1939.
I lived in Turbeville. I grew up in Turbeville. And I remember that standing on the front porch and watching them install the fixture for the light on the front porch, because that was the last fixture that was installed before the electricity was turned on.
I remember in 30, I remember his power in 39. I was at home and we didn't even have light at that time. We didn't have a refrigerator, nothing at that time.
One thing I remember about the electricity coming on is the first appliance we had was a refrigerator, electric refrigerator, and we were also thrilled to have our own ice trays and have our own ice.
I think it leveled the playing field. There was a time when only those that lived along the major throughways and in the urban areas had the privilege, had the opportunity, and that was through the investor-owners who were making money. After the Depression, when Roosevelt saw the inequity and he enacted the Rural Electrification Act, that actually provided the opportunity for those in rural areas to enjoy the same benefits. So it leveled the playing field and brought them into the game.
The jubilation and the just magical electricity flowing, and the number of people that were just amazed at what we could do with the electricity, and the number of people that would even come to our house after hours and want to know when they could get electricity, when is the line coming out my way. It was just something unlike anything since then. I don't think anything would rival that as far as the everyday person. The airplane and the space shuttles and all that made a big difference, but as far as the everyday person, electricity just changed their lives completely.
After the signing of the Articles of Incorporation, there was a spirit of relief and criticism because of the looming demand for line construction. The cooperative had a difficult time striking the right balance to meet public expectations. Now, Walter Blackwell, W.E. Blackwell, a Georgia Tech engineer, was hired as the first general manager, and during that time he was called, or that position was referred to as project superintendent. He was hired in early 1940 to begin the enormous effort of line construction in this huge underserved territory. Electric service was successfully provided to more than 1,000 members during the first year. However, the next few years were rather difficult because of the country's commitment to World War II. The general manager was drafted and granted a leave of absence to serve and protect our freedom. Now, in the absence of Walter Blackwell, J.W. Wallace was retained as the interim manager in 1940. Walter Blackwell returned from the war and resumed his position in January of 1945. However, due to injuries sustained in the war, he resigned in December of 1946. Under the exemplary leadership of Basil Ward that continued from 1946 to 1976, James Player from 1976 to 1984, Ed Wetzel from 1984 to 1997, and Tom Collier from 1997 to 1999. Santee Electric Cooperative successfully accomplished its mission to build a reliable electric distribution grid to serve the largest geographic footprint in South Carolina Electric Cooperative's assigned territory.
I'm Archie Ward. My father was Basil Ward. He was manager of Santee Electric from about a year after it was organized, I think in '39. He came on as manager in 40. He was employed in 39 when they started, or shortly thereafter. He built some of the first lines. He and a couple other linemen started building the lines, and he signed up some of the first customers, riding around through the countryside when they knew where they were going to build the first substation and where that first line was going to run. They started signing up customers, and he and a couple other linemen were the only employees. They built the first lines. They helped build the first substation. I think they probably had a contractor to come in and build that, but they built the first lines running from that first substation, and it just kind of grew then. And that was in the early 40s, and he was manager until his retirement in 76. And I will have to add, that's all we lived at my house was the co-op.
When I started here, we had one line truck, and Farmers Telephone used to be in the office with us. And we made it so we had to do everything with hand. Cut the tree with crosscut saw, dig the hole with hand, and if the hole wasn't deep enough, we used dynamite. So we'd have to use a 8-foot piece of 2-inch pipe and a 1-inch pipe in that, and we'd go down when we put the dynamite, and then we'd slip the 1-inch back out the 2-inch, and then we'd put the stick of dynamite down in the hole. It was kind of dangerous, but that we went through it.
We were in a general office, what we call a general office. There were 8 or 10 desks in the office, and we did service orders, cut off, read meters, whatever needed to be done, we did. And then I moved into Section 5, which was an area where we financed appliances, electrical appliances for the consumers. And I worked there until I went on maternity leave in '67. And when I came back, I came into the accounting department.
Back in that time, it wasn't using this aluminum wire. We was using the copper wire 80, 6A, and 9.5D, and hard drawn back in that time. We didn't use this aluminum wire back in that time. And they didn't have it. We was some in Georgetown County and Hemingway and King Street. And the people down in Georgetown County used to have to pay their light bill down at Tyndall's service station back in the olden days. And we had a substation right up in Georgetown, right in the city limit.
When I first came into accounting, everything was done manually. We had accounts payable, cash disbursement, cash receipts, routine journals, and journal entries that we posted all of the month's work in, and from there was posted into a general ledger. From the general ledger, we gleaned our information for the RUS forms that had to be sent to the Rural Electrification Administration.
Oh, we didn't have anything like that back in that time. We had to climb the tree with spars on our leg and the pole. You didn't have no bucket truck at all to do anything going up. You had to climb the pole. Back, and we had those stone brick down. We had to work night and day. Oh, night and day.
When the office closed at 5:30, all the trouble reports, we called them trouble calls back then. You got a trouble call. Came to our house. We had the two-way radio in our dining room, and we took all the calls after 5:30. They would automatically come to our telephone. And when Dad would go out, my mother and I was the oldest child, would take the trouble reports coming in. And I got to know, I knew every lineman's number on his truck, and generally which territory he had. Like certain ones had the lake area, and there was 2 that were mainly Georgetown, and 2 or 3 up in the Florence County area. And we took all the trouble reports coming in, and when he would go out, I would take the calls, and no computers then and no GPSs, so when somebody would call in, we would find out which road they were on and who you lived next door to. And At first, everybody didn't have telephones. So one person in the community would kind of check with the others, or the others would come in and whoever had a telephone would call the report in, and that was one thing the lineman wanted to know, who else was out. And that would kind of guide them as to which section of the line was out and which phase coming out of a sub was out.
We have made a serious transition with technology during this era of change. The cooperative has come a long way over the last 75 years. A few short years ago, we had one laptop computer and about 5 desktops. Now we are fully vertically integrated.
Well, when I first came to work at Santee Electric in 1990, everything was pretty much done manually. They had one main computer system, which there was thin coax running everywhere, and they had terminal emulation, and it mainly just kept up with customer data. Anybody who called in with an outage, somebody would have to physically answer the phone and put it in. It would print our dispatcher's office. Somebody had to sit at a printer and take each one of those outages and manually look at maps and organize them. And today we have an OMS system, which is called an outage management system. So now when somebody calls in, we have IVRs, or integrated force response systems, that can go in and they can take the calls. Once they take the calls, it automatically goes in and displays on our maps. And when it displays on our maps, it groups them into buckets, I guess you could call them, to group outages together.
Over the past 15 years, we have now implemented where we have laptops in each of our vehicles. This allows our linemen quick and easy access to a lot of information that they never had in the past. The paper maps we used to have were simply just lines drawn on a piece of paper that may or may not have been accurate. And once those map books were printed out, they were immediately out of date the next day. Now our linemen can have day-to-day, up-to-date maps, which are updated each time they pull into the office, so they can find trouble calls more easily.
Things are pretty basic, done by hand, such as the billing procedure. We used to, the members would read their meters, and they would submit the readings to us with the bill cards that we used to send out, not letters, but we used to send bill cards out, and on the cards there were dials that looked like clocks, and they would draw a little hand like you would on a clock. They draw it best they could as it was on the meter and turn that in. They went with the cyclometers, which had numbers on them, and they would write the numbers on it and turn those into us, and we'd bill them and mail them out in cards, not mailers, not letters. And we would sort them out and package them up and take them to the post office ourselves. Since we decided at some point to go to a contract, and we contracted our meter readings. That worked well enough, but then with the onset or the birth of the EMI, which is Advanced Metering Infrastructure, we implemented that on our system, and we get readings on a daily basis, and on the read date, we use that reading to bill every month. So we've gotten smart about it. And we don't mail anything ourselves anymore. We outsource the mailing to our software provider who serves over 500 co-ops. And they mail our bills for us, and they run our addresses through their software, which syncs with the post office software, keeping it up to date and resulting in effective delivery of our bills or our mailers, any mailings.
One of the biggest improvements we've had for customer service has been our AMI system, or our Advanced Metering Infrastructure System. It allows us to work with our consumers to look at their load data and assist them in managing their usage. So in today's environment with energy efficiency, it's really a big tool that helps us with customer satisfaction. And it also is a way that we're able to go out and do stuff like check for voltages or check to see if someone has power. So it actually integrates back into our outage management system and helps us determine who has power and who does not have power.
One key technology that Santee Electric employees are trying to implement is the fault detection software, which will allow us to analyze fault currents to determine or to better narrow down where faults occur on our system so we can restore power more quickly. We're also working to send our service orders digitally to our servicemen through their laptop computers so that they don't rely on a radio or phone communication to get information.
Another item that has greatly improved our efficiency is our electronic staking sheet and our mobile workforce. What we used to do is, as I said, everybody used to do everything manually, so they would draw up a paper staking sheet. As time has went on, now this is done electronically. When it's done electronically in the field one time, then it integrates into all of our other accounting system and engineering systems so that the information is automatically put in there. Used to be somebody would have to physically take that piece of paper. They would have to go in and manually do each one of those items, whether it was putting it on the map, whether it was putting it in the accounting system or in a scheduling system. Now all of that is done electronically until they actually print the map and give it to the crew in order to go out and build a job.
Well, everything is computerized now. When I first went in accounting, all checks were done manually, all reports were done manually. And if you had a report that you had to have several copies of or multiple copies of, we didn't have a copy machine, so you used Carbon. I did fine with the checks, but typing was not one of my best attributes. So I did have a challenge with the reports because we had the board reports that you had to have multiple copies of. Using that Carbon was a task. But also when I came into accounting, we had an electric calculator, but we had manual Royal typewriters. Eventually we got an electric typewriter and we felt like we were really coming up then. But then later on as computers came in, everything became computerized and it was easier.
Another area that we have had huge advancements in is technology. You know, with the implementation of the internet. The internet made such a drastic change. You wouldn't think it would in the power industry, but you know, we have a lot of back office and a lot of computer systems. And with the internet coming, we now have stuff like our Smart Hub. So when a customer goes on our website and they're going to go pay a bill, whenever they're linked, they go out into the cloud, as they call it, out out in the internet on one of these big hosted servers. And that is actually where they go. They pay their bill, they look at their usage, and it allows them, it allows the processes and the payments and everything to be much faster because of the capability of these big, huge computers out in the cloud. Another item would be, I guess, our website. We were the first one in the state to have a website that would actually come up properly on a mobile phone. And you know, the smartphone actually is, I would say, the biggest thing that's improved my life here at the cooperative, primarily because I can access any and everything from my smartphone. I mean, I can look and see who's out of power. I can go in and look and check our SCADA system. It allows me to go in and look up customer data. I actually even have our maps on my phone now. So I can go in and find customers and everything out into the field. So it, you know, it gives us so much more flexibility now when we're not at the office to be able to just stay in touch and to stay on top of what's going on, and you know, which in turn allows us to stay on top of things and ensure that we promote the best possible customer service as well.
It wasn't too many years ago when things were a lot simpler. We didn't have a lot of tools we have today. We didn't have many computers in the house. Everybody's got computers now, which are essential. I don't know what we do without them. The internet offers the opportunity to do things that we weren't able to do in the past, such as from home through VPN, virtual private network. We can work just as we were sitting at our desk and get a lot done, and I'll be better prepared when we come in to follow through on whatever we need to do to serve our membership.
We are building a smarter electric distribution grid, and we're using advanced metering infrastructure. We have upgraded our SCADA system on a Windows server to generate advanced operating performance with greater functionality and at reduced costs. We have implemented cloud computing on a Smart Hub to promote the best-in-class communication technologies. We have installed an OMS, an outage management system, to better manage planned and unplanned outages with seamless interface. We have installed partner field engineering solution to preserve map accuracy and integrity, and to interface with accounting to eliminate the manual entries and calculations. It is a great pleasure for me to report that technology is defining and enabling our future at Santee Electric Cooperative. We have been in business, as I said earlier, for 75 years, and the last decade has been devoted to a smarter grid and process improvement.
When I came to work at the cooperative, I really did not understand how the cooperative worked or exactly how beneficial it was for our members. But as time has went on, I have really seen the difference between cooperatives compared to investor-owned utilities. Our sole purpose for being here is to serve the community and serve our members. Anything that we make above our margins goes back to the members and capital credits. So we really have a very good business model as far as serving the membership. But you know, whenever you start looking at investor-owned utilities, they are in business to make money, and that money goes back to stockholders, so it technically leaves the utility. In the cooperative model, all of the money stays in-house and it goes back to the actual members that it benefited.
It is with immense gratification that I accept this opportunity to lead such a wonderful group of employees. Serving as CEO is not a position that I take lightly. We are blessed. We are blessed with a team of highly skilled, loyal, and dedicated employees. Our present-day focus is driven by process improvement and just-in-time advanced technological solutions.
It's hard to see how things can change as much from when I first remember the power coming on and where it is now. I just wonder how it could change and improve much more. But there are a lot of smart people out there.
I look forward with excitement and anticipation of continued growth and prosperity for our entire service area. We have accomplished so much, and our goal is to continue providing the most reliable electric service to our member owners as safely and efficiently as possible.